Now, we've heard the President of the United States addressing the House in Davos, and we've also had to delve in to see what they were discussing on food security for just a bit. But we're back here now to look at that conversation or that speech by the US President Donald Trump. And I'm being joined by global policy analyst Alexander Van Rugen, who joins us from Canada. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Also joining us virtually, Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So let me just start off with you, Alexander. That statement by President Trump, some will say is a very strong statement, and some will look at it from another way, exaggerated, opinionated, but still very strong. What's your take?
Well, Trump always comes out with a little bit of a schlock statement to get everybody's attention, and that becomes the starting point of a negotiation. The purpose of this trip to Davos was pure negotiation. It's what's not being said that we have to pay attention to. He's brought an unprecedented a group of 300 people with him. That's never happened before. He's addressed and somewhat attacked the world order in Davos, that things aren't working and America's changing them. And if they want to be part of that success, join America. And of course, he was pitching the annexation of Greenland. He's toned that down a little bit from using force to not using force. But he's made some comments that if Europe says no or NATO says no, America will remember it. He's impassioned in reminding Europe that his roots are also Scottish and German. So kind of politically giving an alliance to Europe. He's recounting history on America's assistance to Europe during the Second World War, and that they wouldn't be a free entity if it weren't for America. He's pitching the security need of Greenland for America, although he hasn't increased military power there, which he has the ability to do. They have a base there now. If it were an immediate concern, I'm sure U.S. troops would already be in Greenland. There's a few of them right now, but it's a small contingent of in between 200 and 400. He's trying to impress, although he didn't quote the Monroe Doctrine. Basically, he's enacting the Monroe Doctrine that there's the old world, which is Europe. There's the new world, which is the Western Hemisphere. And America wants to control both Americas. And Greenland has to be part of it because it's part of North America. That's his pitch. Now, he's got 300 people with him. I'm sure other deals are going to be made, and the Europeans have a tough decision. Do they want to initialize a trade bazooka because of the pending tariff threats of 10% if they don't agree to annexation of Greenland, and then an increase of another 25% if it doesn't happen by June 1st? These are typical Trump negotiation posturing, and I think Europe has to weigh out: is the juice worth the squeeze? Is giving up Greenland worth what it will cost, or will the cost be much higher not doing it? I think that's what has to be deliberated on. His method of bedside manner approaching the world leaders,
okay,
is unorthodox, and it gives a knee-jerk reaction of resistance because no one wants to be bullied.
Okay, let's bring in Ambassador Keshi. Ambassador Keshi, yes, President Trump has made his statements boldly. America is the savior of the world. I mean, if I could say that in summary, America is the go-to nation, and anybody that's not aligning with America doesn't need to be in this room, so to speak. But what does that say of all the other people who were sitting down, the other countries who were listening? And some will say, at the end, stood up to give a standing ovation for the speech by President Trump?
If you are referring to If you're referring to the ovation, you have to understand that you're dealing with the international community that has its protocol and behavior. It's a question of respect. Look, no matter what the president said or did not say, the people in that hall would have gotten out would have stood up to clap for him simply out of respect. But you remember, I like to draw your attention to. I like to draw your attention to. Sorry, I'm trying to. I like to draw your attention to that famous record, I think by Favor, of the arrival of the Lion, the Conqueror, and the rest of it. That's exactly what you saw. It was the arrival of the Lion. It was the speech of the Lion, and it was typical Trump speech to start with. The only headline that one can take away from the speech itself, because every other thing he said was more or less domestic issues, and apart from taking on his enemies, which he identified, the only thing that he said was about Greenland, that he was not going to attack it or take it over by force. And I don't know if you watched the speech, you could see that immediately the market started reacting, because the market reacted negatively before he left the United States when he first talked of the possibility of military action. And that may have moderated his position, I don't know. But immediately he made that statement that he was not going to take Greenland by force. The market also immediately began to react on a positive trajectory. And CNN, for example, was showing the reaction of the market. So as I said, it was the kind of speech you should expect Trump to make. And that's in direct reference to your question. Remember that everybody else who has spoken since yesterday or 2 days ago have been limited to between 10, 15, 20 minutes. The president spoke for an hour, 20 minutes. That tells you that Joe himself is in town.
Indeed, Ambassador Keshi, I'm afraid I've been told that we can't take this conversation beyond this point, but we would come back to this sometime. I don't know how soon we can drag the both of you in. I'm sorry, but we really have to go at this time. Thank you so much, Global Policy Analyst Alexander Van Rugen, who's in Canada, and Ambassador Joe Keshi, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation.